As most of you may know, Eagle Dynamics recently upgraded the F-A-18 pilot model in DCS World. And I'm going to talk about that today from the perspective of a former aircrew life support specialist for over 20 years in the U.S. Air Force. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the past of what we had before, and I'm going to talk about how what we have now is a positive step for the future to build an immersive environment for us to enjoy in this awesome, one-of-a-kind digital combat simulator. I'm going to compare some of the equipment to some of the other modules that I've covered in the past, such as the Strike Eagle and the F4E, and I'm also going to bring up the Navy NATOPS and show you some of the equipment that is presented in there for this actual aircraft module. Based on my experience working in the Air Force, I'm also going to talk a little bit about what some of the functions are with each piece of equipment. Let's get to it.
Do you have another one of these?
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Juice, and I'm not an expert at this anymore because I might have been considered an expert at one time, but so much has changed and so much time has passed that I don't think anybody can really stay in expert status very long without really a lot of hard work. So I'm going to talk about this stuff from my enthusiast point with a little bit of history and a little bit of experience, as I mentioned before. Now, DCS World is amazing for giving us visuals that allow us to do stuff in a virtual combat simulator that you can't do in any other program. And I'm talking about interact with the jet from the inside, but also be able to affect some of the stuff that you do outside in an environment that is not matched by any other video game, in my personal opinion. There are graphically better games out there, but it's not the same as DCS World. So I've had the F-A-18 Hornet since day one, since it became available for sale on the DCS eShop. And I have loved it from day one. It's probably my favorite airplane to fly in DCS World because it's the most furthest developed of any of the aircraft that I fly. And the only modern jets that I have really are the F-A-18 Hornet, the F-16 Viper, and the Mudhen. And I can honestly say that this is my first clickable cockpit modern jet in DCS World. And as I've mentioned before, I flew the F-15C primarily of the Flaming Cliffs because that was the airplane I was really motivated to fly for 2 years before getting into the Hornet. The mouse right now is over the pilot's visor, so if you pick up there, I'm going to go through the equipment and show you some of the stuff from this picture and tell you about what it is. So one of the upgrades we got was a more improved joint mounted helmet cueing system, the JHMX, and a lot of you may have noticed right now that we have these MBU 20P, the combat edge mask, the pressure breathing for G, if I could say that this morning, mask, and it was upgraded also. It's a little too clean, but it looks good. And the hose looks really awesome, and it goes down into the terminal block down here where they hook in. And this is different what the Air Force uses. We use the Crew 94P in the Air Force. If that's still what they're using today, that's what we used when I worked on Combat Edge in F-16s and F-15s. And it is more mounted up here a little bit higher and everything. So while we're on this part right here, this is the horse collar life preserver. Ours was called the LPU 9P. It's designed so that when you pull down on these lanyards here, right here on both sides, they inflate. They also do have a saltwater or universal water activation device, so if the pilot is unconscious and they go in the water, these should inflate by themselves. But we teach in the post bailout checklist that if you're conscious and you go through your checklist at the step where you would inflate your LPUs before entering the water, you go ahead and override that because you don't want to rely on the automatic systems. Those are there just in case as a backup in case you're unconscious. Along with that capability of taking care of you, but if you're not able to take care of yourself, is the Universal Water Activated Release System, or UWARS. This is this black thing right here on the side of the parachute riser, and what it does is it has two electrode contact points down here in this little sensor. When that is immersed in water, whether it be fresh or salt water, that allows for a conductivity charge for it to basically connect the gap, and it fires the system, which pushes the pin out of here and allows the parachute to come out. It basically will release you from your parachute if you're unconscious in the water and everything. So on this picture, I can see the bayonet receivers, and it looks like they've actually put them in the correct second position right here. There is 4 clicks in this bayonet receiver. These are the bayonets that are tied to the mask. And the mask actually looks pretty good too. I do see some loose straps here, which you wouldn't see in the real world, but that's just minor stuff. And again, none of this that I'm doing on this video is a complaint to DCS World or to ED or DC about DCS World. So this is definitely not a complaint video. I like that they have the flag with the stars of the stars field on the right side. If this flag was on his other shoulder, the flag would be reversed and they'd have the stars facing forward, as I've seen in many other flight suit pictures that I've had, many other flight suit moments that I've had in the Air Force. He's got his survival vest, which is integrated into his harness, I believe, and you guys that are Navy riggers or Marine Corps riggers, tell me on that one. One of the things that is kind of missing with this is here's the parachute risers right here. This is the risers, not this thing right here. This is the inertia reel. What this is this is a restraint system that's locked in with the seat handle down below, and you'll see that if you look down to your left, you'll see right next to where your emergency oxygen cylinder D-ring is or O-ring is. You'll see this where it's basically that handle where you can lock so that you won't get thrown forward in a crash. Now, it is also designed, just like your seat belts in your car, to lock if you have an inertia change, where if you suddenly stop or hit something. If you guys have ever been trying to move around while you're going real fast or trying to slow down real fast, you'll notice your seatbelt locks and you can't move, and that's what this does in the cockpit right here. Now, these risers that I mentioned or started to mention, these go down, but they're supposed to come back up and connect in with this. This is where the riser connects in over his shoulder, and that just might be missing, or it could be from this angle. It's just not represented, with the best light. So let's go to the next picture. So this is the other side, a little bit closer look at the U-Wars, and there is, of course, in almost any video game, there's some clipping that goes into this pilot's skin and everything. But I don't know what this is. If you guys know what this is, I'll tell you what I think it looks like. I think this looks almost like, it looks to me like it's a Camelback, some type of hydration thing. This is a valve where you can shut it off, and this is where you can disconnect to clean the mouthpiece. But this looks like some hydration thing. But I don't know if they have that in the Hornet, and or the Super Hornet nowadays, or any of the other F-35s or anything else that's flying. So you guys let me know if you know this one. If you have a reference, definitely put a link in it and I'll prove it. Now what this could be is this could be an emergency underwater escape breathing device. This could be what we used to call the HEEDS bottle for helicopter guys, helicopter emergency escape device. And this right here gives the pilot a little bit of compressed air, not oxygen, but it's just compressed air. Same air as you would breathe if you were diving under the ocean as a diver. And this could be that. This could be allow them in a ditching situation to take a couple of breaths as they're untying themselves from the seat as the airplane is sinking. Oh no. So this shows that, and then you can see the, and I guess if you look at it from this picture right here, it looks a little bit more accurate. This is the riser coming down. It looks like it bends back up and then wraps around the shoulder. So I may have been wrong in my first picture, and I probably was. And again, like I said, I'm not the expert. Here's an over the right shoulder look. This is one of my favorite looks in the jet. And this is an external view. So what we get in the cockpit in first person with the F1 view is totally different than this. This is a rough cut view. It's not going to be on the same level of detail. So it looks like the cockpit is really dull in this. Almost looks like some of the sizes may be out of proportion because of the zoom factor and everything. But this right here is not representative of what you see in the first person. That's why it's always better looking in that. And when you're looking at this, you can immediately look in the center and you see his knee board. And right there in his knee board, he's got his pen, his pencil, and see how he's got a little lanyard tied there? That's so he doesn't drop the pencil in the cockpit. Like every good pilot, he's got his gloves on and his sleeves rolled down for fire protection. Here's another confirmation picture right here showing the riser coming up and over his shoulder. And this is the inertia reels allow you to lean forward in your aircraft, allow you to lean forward in the cockpit so that you can do it and you still remain attached to the jet. This strap coming down here off the life preserver is just to keep it from riding up and over the pilot's head in the water, and it's attached to the harness. It's integrated in with the harness. It has a removable clip. Ours were pretty simple back then, but it has a removable clip that allows us to take it off to service it, maintain it, and stuff like that. The Jisoo looks pretty good. He's got these leg straps right here, and you'll see in some of the other pictures, we'll talk about the leg restraints that go in the Hornet for ejection sequence to pull the pilot's legs back so he doesn't leave his shins on the dashboard, on the panel. The helmet, I don't have any experience with Navy helmets. I do have experience with combat edge helmets, and this right here is where the air bladder that goes inside of a combat edge helmet, if they're still doing that, this is where as you pull G's, the air would also go up into here and it would inflate a bladder back here that would tighten up your mask. It basically makes the helmet tighter to your head so the mask gets drawn in while you're pulling G's and it doesn't get pulled off your face. This is another top-down view from the left side, and this right here, you guys can put in some comments what you think this might be. This could be a due date. For us, we used to have what's called local control numbers. It's kind of like a serial number. In a case of if we were in the 67th Fighter Squadron when I was in Okinawa, we might have 67-001, 002, 003, basically gave us a way of tracking a unit based on who it was assigned to and gave its own little what we call local control number. It could be a serial number for the unit. It could be a due date from inspection or when it's due inspection. We rarely ever put the dates of when something was inspected on the equipment as a single date. We'd always put the dates coming due. So if you ever looked at this and you saw it was past that date on it, you know it was overdue and everything. A little trivia here. Anytime we had a person's equipment come due or was coming due the day before, we always went and checked the flight schedule for the next day to see if they were on the flight schedule so that we didn't have their mask or their equipment torn apart doing maintenance on it, routine maintenance on it when they were supposed to be flying. And that was a big thing not to do and everything. So as you can see, this guy is a double-barrel Navy lieutenant. With his rank, the patches and the flag really add a nice touch. I really like the texture of this. This is really awesome, and you'll see in the pictures, and you saw some of the previous video, that I can actually get out of the jet. And if you haven't figured out how to get out of this jet yet, let me know and I'll tell you. Looking down at the top of the oxygen mask right here, you can see the microphone bracket. This is where the mic cord attaches into the jet right here, and it allows the connection right here to be disconnected with this little red dot. We'll pull that, and we can actually take the cord off, remove the mask hose, and then take the microphone out from the inside and change that little block there. That's a little triangular shaped block that's right here that I'm pointing at. This orange stuff right here is a rubberized gasket that allows for a airtight seal between the mic bracket and the mask, because if we didn't have this here, then the pressurization of the O2 system would leak out this right here, and just like it could leak out the side if the mask is too loose and everything. Here's the guy outside his jet. I think this guy's name is Juice based on the pilot's name on the pilot identifier on the side of the aircraft, and you can tell he's at Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas. How he got out of that jet, I don't know. So I looked at this picture and I said, wow, this is a good top-to-down representation. I mean, the guy's face doesn't look real to me, and it's not a complaint. It's just it doesn't look weathered enough. It looks like it was. It still looks a little 2D, and that's totally fine with me. I don't have any complaints about this pilot model, because we're not in DCS World to run around and play ARMA. We're into DCS World to shoot the airplanes and operate the systems, and to basically use it as a combat vehicle. But you can see the checklist is there. Normally they would take that off after they get out of the airplane just so their pencil doesn't fall out and their loose change and everything like that. Here it is from a side view. It's this guy is really a good looking pilot model. He looks like he's about 5'11", maybe 6 foot, 6'1", and he's got a big nose. Here's another picture where you can tell that his nose is clear and he's wiped it recently. Oh, I'm getting way off track here. But if you look at this, you can see the leg restraints down below that go on around your legs. And I don't know how the Hornet does it. I can look in the NATOPS and find out. But if you guys know, I believe these leg restraints stay in the aircraft, and they're attached to the cables that are on the inertia reel or the take-up reel in the bottom of the ejection seat that pull back during the ejection sequence. And so let me know if I'm wrong on that. I don't think these are supposed to be around his legs. I think they are only around his legs when he's in the aircraft. But let me know. You guys, I probably am wrong because I haven't worked in the Navy before, but I have worked with Marine Corps and Navy riggers in the past. One of the things that threw me off about the Navy equipment right away is where are the canopy releases? The canopy releases are those mechanized, you can do it manually or automatically through that universal water activated release system, but it's basically how you detach yourself from the riser so you don't get drug in the water or on the ground and get hurt. And they stay on the riser. They're attached to the parachute, not to the pilot. And in the Air Force, all of our canopy releases stayed on the harness. We had the big metal things. If you look at guys walking out to go fly in the Air Force, you'll see one on each side. You see this big square thing or rectangular thing that is what attaches into the parachute. This right here makes the flight equipment a lot lighter because you don't have that extra couple pounds of hardware there on top. There's another lap belt or crotch belt strap-in device there. I almost said something wrong. And that is something unique to the Navy. We didn't have that in the Air Force. But what's really cool is look at that big-ass flashlight, that right-angle flashlight, which takes 2 D-cell batteries. So that flashlight plus its battery's got to weigh about a pound, maybe a pound and a quarter. And I don't have one around. I got rid of most of my military garb when I got out. And there's some things that I actually regretted getting rid of. But that's another story for another day. You can see his horse collar has just regular basic black plastic clip in the middle there, right above the oxygen hose. But still, this is a good representation. He's got his gloves flipped down. They're basically, if you were to pull them up, they'd be up over his sleeves or tucked up inside. He's made it so that he has the gloves tucked down so that he can actually reach in and scratch his wrist or do something or check his watch if he needed to. This is another good picture here. It's kind of cool, the angle of this. This is the picture that one of the pictures I considered using for the thumbnail, and I still might put this in here. Now, going outside, and now you guys know how I got out of the jet. If you hit, as long as your seat's armed and you hit Control E 3 times, you can eject. Some guys will have a hot switch that they'll program that to, so they just have to push it once. I like to have it set to the old Control E because that way if I get to the second Control E and I think, wait a minute, what am I doing? I can save the aircraft, and stuff like that. It gives me a little extra time to overcome my impulses. Speaking of impulses, there's impulse carts in this ejection seat that fire off some sequences and stuff. Now, this seat, if you look at the back pad and the survival kit, the survival kit wouldn't be in the aircraft seat at this point. It would still be attached to the pilot because you don't want your seat to fall away and have the survival kit stay in there. But one of the things that is accurate about this is the parachute is gone. If you notice at the top of it, that's to the lower right in the picture. I'll bring the mouse and the training aid in here. This right here, this is where the parachute mechanism would be. So if you go back to the inside cockpit shot, you'll see what the parachute looks like when it's installed with the risers coming down over the top here. Well, that whole case gets pulled out with a drogue chute and it gets pulled away and everything. So here is you can see the seat is still armed. And this seat is a little too fresh. It's almost like they took it out and laid it on the ground, so the damaged model is not too. I mean, there'd be some scars, probably some bending or buckling here where it tumbled along the ground if it survived and stuff. You can definitely see that the ejection handle is pulled. You can see the exposure there of those two silver things right there that would normally be flush down with the bottom of the seat when it's in the seat. But again, this back pad looks more like it's from a 1971 Camaro Berlinetta, if you guys know what I mean. Here's the canopy. This is the canopy after the ejection sequence. It's detached. This was a 0-0 ejection. I was doing 0 altitude, 0 airspeed when I pulled the handles and I was came off. But this would either be shattered or totally destroyed. I mean, it would be, most likely the frame would still survive, but the glass would either be cracked or broken or have missing pieces in it and everything. And I'm not saying ED should fix this. I think this is just fine, but I'm just comparing it to what I have seen because I have been in squadrons. We've had ejections. Where I've got to go out and investigate the aftermath of the ejection for my own learning, but also for validation for the safety board. As an interim safety board member in my career, anytime something happened, we had to go out and gather the evidence, take pictures, and examine things while the evidence was still fresh before either weather came in or the crash emergency crews had to, clean up the runway so that we could, resume flight operations, basically. Now, that's the last slide I have for this. And now let's go to the NATOPS. So guys, at almost 20 minutes into this video. It's been a little long, so I'm going to wrap it up here. But basically, the NATOPS gives you a lot of information about how these systems work and integrate with the jet and the pilot and the human performance environment. But it also provides a few pictures, and I pulled out a couple pictures just to share with you. But you guys look for this NATOPS if you don't already have it. Most of my friends do. You just put in A-18C manual and you get a lot of links out there. There's a few out there that you can still download this at and everything. My current version I'm using is the draft version or the dated version from 15 September 2008, so it's not most likely not up to date. And I did see some pictures in here that are a little bit off. Like one of the things that's off is you can see his life preserver is not the horse collar type, it's the underarm LPUs, which we had those when I first came into the Air Force. And as I mentioned in the video, you won't see the survival kit still stuck in the seat during the ejection sequence. The seat will fall away, and the survival kit, that thing that's hanging off his butt there on the left, will be attached. That'll usually fall if he's got it in the automatic mode where it automatically deploys the life raft. Then that will be on a 25-foot lanyard hanging down below the pilot in most cases. A lot of the equipment between the Air Force and the Navy is similar. A lot of the same manufacturers, just different nomenclatures or different part numbers. This one right here, this is old. I'm pretty sure there's probably some updated information in here about some of the equipment. Like they may not call it the SJUs 5/6 survival systems. And everything like that. So here shows this right here shows the Jahimix mounting the block, the upper HIV or HVI, I mean, to how it's routed in the picture there. But this is a good overview picture showing how the pilot is in the seat and it's got the leg restraints down there. And again, let me know if you guys are riggers or have some experience. Let me know if the leg restraints are part of the flight gear that's hooked to the harness or to the G suit, or if it's something that is left in the jet and each pilot has to slip their feet through it and tighten it up and everything around it. At least that's how we used to do it in the F4 days in the Air Force. And during the U2 days, they actually wear spurs out there. They have metal spurs that lock into a couple steel balls in the jet and everything. Here's a close-up of the leg restraint system, just closing a little bit, showing a little bit more. But again, go to the NATOPS and read that if you guys are interested in that. Again, I'm Juice. This is the Air Warfare Group. You guys have been a great audience so far. I do apologize for making this video a little long, but let's get together sometime and talk about more equipment as Eagle Dynamics upgrades this, and as more of the third-party members like Heatblur and like Razbam really push the boundaries on this aircrew flight equipment to give us the best immersive environment that we can have in the best digital combat simulator available. I think it's the best because it's the only DCS out there. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to like it, give it a thumbs up, and share it with a friend. If you guys haven't subscribed, we really thrive on subscribership. If this is something that you guys would like to be part of, hit that teamwork button by saying subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. This is Juice, out.